everyone, I'm Ricardo. So us readers, we actually have a theme to dress like Laura. So, I'm a post-mall rocker chick, motorcycle Laura. That's me today. And I just want to say thank you to Laura because she actually inspired me to get into poetry. So all this is because of her. So just, I love you, and I dedicate these poems to you. And I have a few poems for you all. And the first one that I have is called Self-Reflection on Travel. I am often humbled by the amount of people who hit on me. At home, I am a well that's been tapped to a puddle. A once fruitful oil rig of compliments abandoned in favor of twink death. It must be the neighborhood I'm in, I whisper to myself as I become a quotidian staple on neighborhood apps. Carry on, picked only by the faceless vultures and the eukaryotic predators. However, when I travel, I'm a boundless, luscious ocean. Sailors delight with untapped potential, a radiant magnet of sweet nothings and unsolicited pictures. The trophy of the hunt for dashing characters and illustrious con men. I am often humbled by the amount of people who hit on me. This next one is called The Circle, and it's based off of Going Out. I hate the circle. You know which circle I'm talking about. The dreaded Ouroboros of flailing limbs, the fairy ring of drugged out fairies, the ring of fire doused in the flames of self-consciousness, the awkward carousel of half-steps, the karmic wheel of just standing there, the ceaseless 360 of intentionless eye contact, the predisposition to an unholy sacred geometry of comfort with friends, the 10th circle of hell. This next one is called 7-Eleven Parking Lot, and it's about cruising at the 7-Eleven parking lot. Beep beep, hop into the car of a total stranger at the 7-Eleven parking lot. We just met 30 minutes ago. How long it took you to drive here, and how long it took me to preemptively accept regret. The balding man with a beard, wife, and kids arrived at 3 a.m. for a barely legal human-shaped snack. Like a bloated red giant nearing its sidereal life cycle, I explode into millions of pieces and dissipate slowly into the night. I have secrets too. I don't actually live in the 7-Eleven parking lot. This is not my home address. The next one is called Glances. Also about cruising at a bar. I guess. We share several furtive, honey-eyed glances, a silent acknowledgement of carnal desires. You didn't ask permission to look into my hungry soul. We both know you don't need permission. Hundreds of glazed eyes walking on the dance floor, alternating flashing lights reveal sequestered intentions. Glances that once started off as subtle bait now turn to ensnaring bear traps. Do you need to use the bathroom? How am I doing this?
Oh, please, you're great.
All right. I guess I'll go with this one. This one is called I Took My Whore Pills with a Glass of Almond Milk. I took my whore pills with a glass of almond milk at 4 a.m. 2 pills of doxycycline, 100 milligrams each to avoid the ramifications of myriad foreign body parts in my mouth. It's all I had in my fridge, a reminder that my life was no longer mine. $40 on just soda water at the bar? I should have just ordered beer served in cups made of gold. A reminder New York is no longer mine. As I kiss the tall man with a backwards hat, he tells me he wants me to fuck him. I tell him I don't do that, and we nod politely at each other and go on our way. A reminder that he is no longer mine, and a reminder that I'm more single than your favorite sock straight out of the dryer. As I try to sleep, my limbs go numb faster than my eyes close, and my nerves start to burn like molten lava. My stomach starts to grumble like an upset volcano, almost as if divine punishment for being hedonistic on Good Friday. A reminder my body is no longer mine. I wake from a nightmare where the current administration has made it illegal to kiss more than a baker's dozen's worth of people in one night, and I am comforted by the fact I took my whole pills at 4 a.m. with a glass of almond milk. A reminder that anxiety was still mine. All right. And this one is called Sisyphus with the Sissiest Lips. Tough one, it's a tough one. Sensual, sexy syllables slowly saunter stridently. I often wonder what gives it away that I am a homosexual. Is it the way I say chips? Maybe it's the way I turn the word yes into a multisyllabic or a cry. Or it's my set of loose lisps, or should I say lips? Which lips, you may ask? That's my Sisyphusian task, hyper-correcting the meteor shower of the letter S's in the English language. Sucks to suck. This one I wrote in Japan. I was just in Japan. And it's called The Camo River's Perfume. The delicate yet pungent smell of jasmine seduces my nose by the Camo River. Thick old flowers that bloom only at night. Camouflaged entities exposed by their desire to stand out. The flute player strangling the notes coming out of his instrument holds us all in a captivating struggle. A gentle cacophony that I cannot tell if it is jarring or only adding to the splendor. A Japanese lady holds a sign imploring for a free Palestine. We politely nod at each other, harder than normal in loud agreement. The old god's celestial river fills with stars as the red sun ushers all to sleep. Moments like this make life worth living. And then I have 4 more poems for you guys, and these are more just like reflective poems of growing up as an immigrant. And this one is called Arroz con Pollo. My mother is a terrible cook. Her specialties include missing parent-teacher conferences, sautéed over a bed of missing award nights, flambéed, yelling in corporal punishment when the meat was not taken out of the freezer, organic, casual racism only Hispanic parents could grow, a bain-marie of steamrolling my boundaries, generous portions of also being a Scorpio, parentheses, derogatory. Self-doubt baked into generational trauma, drizzled with comments about my weight. And finally, her arroz con pollo. Frozen vegetables tossed with delicately seasoned rice that consists of garlic, saffron, and ketchup. Vienna sausages from a tin and boiled chicken shredded and intermingled effortlessly. Something so quick, simple, yet so delicious. A dish only a loving mother who worked 2 jobs to support her immigrant family could make. If I were on death row for committing a crime, such as assassinating the president, her arroz con pollo would be my last name. All right, and then this one is called Gringo. The aroma of grilled arepas, sautéed meat, and a light patacon fry wakes me. Thousands of taste buds salivate as an ancestral Pavlovian response. Imagine my surprise at 6 years old when I found out limes are not lemons, and there exists more lettuce as an iceberg. Food consciousness was just one thing that made me different from my peers growing up. Another was the fact my parents worked 2 jobs each and could never attend parent-teacher conferences. Gringo was the nickname given to me by my family, the meaning of which is a derogatory term for a foreigner who is not Hispanic or Latino. Ironic because I was born in Colombia. Turns out, Gringo was an accurate nickname, as I am a foreigner to all. I am too white to be Colombian and too Colombian to be white. Here, there, everywhere, nowhere to belong to. The human manifestation of the other checkbox when asked about ethnicity. Perhaps I am a foreigner from a different planet. Just don't call me an alien. Call me Gringo. And this one's called Sigh. I finally understand why the millennial sighs. Is it the fact that there are multiple senseless wars and genocide happening in the world and speaking up against them gets you banished? Is it the rich assholes who are actively ruining our lives? Is it Trump and the maggots? Is it the price of eggs? Is it the invisible chronic pain that emanates from the carapace you call your body? Is it the crippling loneliness you feel when you go home at night? Is it your involuntary celibacy? Is it the 80 degrees in November or the 15 degrees in April? Is it the compounding debt you swore you would pay off with your tax return and didn't? Is it having a job or not having a job? Is it the quiet resignation of realizing you're too old to be a social media influencer, but too young to be a CEO, CFO, or any other alphabetical combination? Is it one thing? Is it another? I know, it's your terrible haircut. And then my last poem is a surprise poem for you, Laura. And I call it, This is the Experience of Being an American Whore. 24/7 Sylvia Plath. The poetry inside me is warm like a gun. Sounding off, bang bang, kiss kiss. I'm a Brooklyn baby. I'm not unhinged or unhappy. I'm just wild. Fear fun, fear love, fresh out of fucks forever. I have a taste for men that are older. And it's not because of you that I turned out so dangerous. He holds me in his big arms, with every beat of his cocaine heart. This is all I think of. You can't keep your hands off me or your pants on. You're just a man. It's just what you do. Look at us, you and I, back at it again. And as the summer fades away, nothing gold can stay. Summertime sadness. God, kiss you on my lips. It's me. I'm your man. Dying in the hands of a foreign man. Ciao, amore.
Ricardo mentioned earlier, we are, the featured readers are dressed as Laura today. So I am, I guess, Laura's springtime summer vibe. And of course I have my dog Sally. Unfortunately though, my poems are really depressing, so I'm glad that Ricardo started off very lighthearted for us, but now into the serious tones. So I have a whole bunch, so hopefully, I'm just gonna speed through them, I guess. So this first one actually is dedicated to my husband, who is a music producer, so you'll see some of that in the poem. This one is called Love, Music, and Weed. Snares pull at the bass. Someone snaps and nods, chokes and breathes green skunk. I wonder what the chickens are squeaking about now, if they know what weed is, if they're bitching about the scent and Charlie's rhymes over your swirling beats. I realize what led me here, wrapped in this strange world. I look at you and I have your attention. We cut through the rhythms and lazy smoke. Our eyes curl up at the corners like flower petals under the sun. This one is called Avoiding Bad Luck. And this one's kind of an old one, so some of you might have heard this already. I once wrote in a birthday card with a red inked pen, but my mother told me to start over again. That day, I learned that it is disrespectful to write in red. When I woke up and told her about my dream, where all my teeth fell out, she told me someone would die, so she made me bite on a knife, and I guess everyone stayed alive that day. Once, from inside her parked car, we saw on the sidewalk a little cat minding its business, cleaning the streets off its black fur. Oh no, my mother said, those are bad luck. I remember the day of her passing, when I wore pants the color of a frameless sky. This one is called Before the Empty House. She drags the balls of her crusted feet through a dim hallway between occupied rooms toward the sound of black coffee dripping offbeat to the ticking clock looming at the doorway, away from the dampened guitar strums she passed, behind the door holding a sweet melody that will soon quiet itself. Now in the kitchen, the room of sustenance, She fills the silence with her linted nylon sweater and soft sips of warm black caffeine swimming past her lips, tasting like the graveyard shifts, early morning school drop-offs, the drawn curtains inviting darkness and temporary rest for strength to rise again while the world outside returns home. Finally, once more, the sacred mug to the lips, the vessel of memories for a life spent on keeping the peeling walls up to nourish the voices and strings hidden inside each room. So I was born and raised here in New York, and as a writer, I feel like the best place for me to write is on the go and never in one place. So this poem is dedicated to that, or inspired by that. So this is called New York Poet. The words I'm trying to say are just as lost as I was when taking the New Jersey Transit out of New York. I keep lugging these poems into grimy subway cars, folding and unfolding, crossing out and swinging arrows, injecting adverbs, tucking in adjectives, while the characters around me clutch the poles for balance, their eyelids light as feathers but heavy as flightless birds. So you're going to see a few list poems. So this one is a list poem, and it's called What Survived During the Pandemic. What Survived Through the Pandemic. Protests, the inhumane actions of others, my cat's attitude, my stomach issues, the soil-filled pots with their brittle stems, my grandmother's clothes, the duct-taped, puffed-up Macy's plastic bag stuffed with her winter jackets, the collection of small bottled lotions and oils smeared on prayer cards to Our Lady of Manawag shining and glistening, my appetite, and my inability to say no. And here's another long list poem, inspired by my mother. This is called Expenses of an American Dream. One-way ticket to JFK, nurses' scrubs and decent shoes, split rent with Judy and Ray and Boy and Judy's sister, balikbayan box, money to mom, Kuya's plane ticket, Burger King, Forum I-130 fee, Nene's plane ticket, pizza, balikbayan box, mom's meds, McDonald's, down payment on the condo unit, marriage license, balikbayan box, new car, hospital fees, money to mom, preschool, elementary school, balikbayan box, hospital fees, preschool, elementary school, 3 round-trip tickets to the Philippines, divorce attorney, money to mom, high school, 3 round-trip tickets to Italy, college, high school, balikbayan box, surgery, college, donation to church, funeral arrangements. A lot of these are just poems inspired by my mom, and a lot of deaf poems too. So this one is called Hiding. At that time, I would take the car as if I had somewhere to go. Go straight, take a right, stop at the light, my foot pressed on as the buildings and corners morphed into strangers. Someone probably sat by her creaky bed and fed her with a dropper when I parked by the train station and rode the L down where the streets and dim bedrooms didn't smell like cancer, where I ruined a stranger's bedsheets in hopes to discover a distraction there. She was probably asking for drops of water to her lips while I was directed where to put mine. When it was useless, I got back in the car and imagined cracking the rearview mirror into painful pieces the size of her morphine tablets. And she'd lay there for hours, remembering when her legs used to take her overseas. The streetlights were kind and pointed me home, far from my urges of crashing into something large and stable. They stood outside, without judgment, listening to the muffled, desperate screams from my parked car. Then later, exhausted and all dried out, I would return home, the car unscratched, I moved silently past the dying woman in the creaky bed. So in my other poem, you heard the words balikbayan box a few times. Balikbayan box is basically this huge box that Americans will like fill up with random stuff and send it back home to their family in the Philippines. So that word, the balikbayan box actually appeared at this museum installation I went to with Laura and our friend April. So it was like a big arch of boxes, and it's just like an ode to all the Filipino immigrants who are constantly giving back to their families back home. So I was really inspired by this exhibition there at MoMA PS1. So this is called the Balikbayan Arch at MoMA PS1. 2 pallets hold the stacked cardboard. Each box is folded into the familiar shape I would find in my living room growing up, usually filled with my old clothes, Halloween candy I didn't want, canned goods, towels, an assortment of things my mother would thrift. Instead of a recipient's address along the side of each box, a phrase repeats in different dialects. If you don't know how to look back at where you came from, you won't make it to where you're going. Together they are piled neatly and meet in the form of an arch, a gateway, an entrance to walk under. And as I step through to the other side, I find myself home again. A stretch screen displays a colorful curation of clips of my hometown Woodside. The giant Mabuhay mural down my street appears here, decked out with flowery, hand-painted designs, its lettering stylized to remind some of us of the jeepneys back in the homeland. It cuts to an inside view of the restaurants that knew my usual order, sinigang na baboy, and of course the smiling tanned faces who have fed nearly every Filipino in New York, near and far. Surrounded by empty boxes, my brows come together and the rest of the clips blur. 2 of my friends, in their fair skin, stand behind me, waiting patiently for my cue to move on to another room, another temporary exhibit. All right, I have 4 more, and yeah, it was really fun reading these poems for you, and I'm so glad that I get to be here with you guys. Okay, so another sad one. This one is called The Bargain. The Bargain. If I wear what you left in your closet, if I wear the small smile, if I keep the stove clean and the water running, if I always bring something to the celebration, if I keep my nails transparent, if I take your mother to her appointments, if I whisper the Divine Mercy chaplet, if I listen to what's left on the answering machine, if I look after your firstborn, will you remind me how many carrots are in the recipe? Will you let me paint your toes? Will I find you in the first pew? Will you watch me on stage? Will we finally visit India? Will we share another bowl of pho? Will you borrow my boots for the winter? Will you fill this empty room? This one is called Eulogy for My Old Journals. Rest in peace to the purple and black inked pens I drained, whose blood was used to document my stupid arguments with exes, family, and friends who no longer exist in my life. Creased post-it notes tucked in the journal covers, scrawlings of middle school crushes I once confused with love, pain and pleasures preserved in the pages of my youth, prioritized over domestic and world events, dragged out and discussed in depth, as if the dark chapters of my life were the only things worth writing about. 36 notebooks and 29 years later, my choice of words now more selective, my circle the size of a nickel, the world still in disarray. I watch my words combust, then lift into ashes, as delicate as the years I wrote them, the match somewhere close by the pile of empty pens. All right, this one is called The Funny Side of Death. The last time I went to a funeral was on Halloween. When I got home, I secretly wanted to get so fucked up it would be erased from my memory. But instead, I put on some makeup and fake blood, bought a donut, and voted for a presidential election. Once I was 3 hours late to a funeral stuck in the Holland Tunnel, cursing at rush hour and a chunky GPS device. When I got there, a carnival was set up outside, quiet, soulless, with the bright primary colors waiting with big smiles for heavy pocket customers. After my grandfather died at 100 years old, I sat in my room wearing PJs and stared at my iPhone, wishing my cousin in the Philippines would hold her camera still during the procession to the chapel. All right, one last sad one, and then I'll be going. This one is called Comfort. Being bedridden, a bed was not enough. You needed cushions and pillows and blankets under your legs and under your feet. I gave up my own bed pillows to hold up that fragile, familiar face. Even from your urn, you were given the same comfort. You sent me on a mission to take you back home, to the other side of the world. So I carefully wrapped you in my sweater, folded my shirt across the wooden shell that held the woman who held me at my birth. TSA unzipped the luggage and found you there, all cozy, like a child in an oversized coat. As they peeled away each layer, I knew you were fussing. I knew you were rolling your eyes and muttering to yourself. Same old mom, traveling and wrapped in soft things, just in another vessel. Thank you.
Can we give it up one more time for our first two features? Love their work. So I am, Laura does a reading / goes out. Am I all black? And I was like trying to, when I was told the prompt, I started looking at all the pictures and I was like, what do I do? And I'm like, oh, all black. So I'm a teacher. I love a good agenda. So I'm going to read 2 poems from my book, 2 poems for the forthcoming, and then a couple of new pieces for you. The first one I'm going to read, and I'm so sorry for those in the room who have heard this story. I'll make it quick, I promise, to not bore you. But this poem, actually, we have some folks that were here in this particular workshop with Nicole Seeley, and the prompt was write a praise poem. And I was like, yeah, I totally got this. Wrote it, did the thing where you put it away, you come back to edit it, and I was like, oh shit, I'm a bummer. But of course, my lovely cohort at City really encouraged me to keep working on it, and now it's a poem I read at every single reading, and it's called I Live. I've lived with ghosts, cockroaches, and raccoons. I've lived with calico cats, dirty dogs, and an orange rabbit. I've lived with metropolitan mice, rural rats, and a possum. I've lived with substance shame, sex regret, and family guilt. I've lived with half family, step family, and chosen family. I've lived with parents having hepatitis C, cancer, and depression. I've lived with a boyfriend, husband, and myself. I've lived with translated Bibles, botched brochures, and bullets. I've lived with occult Catholicism and paganism. I've lived with broken nails, fevers, and souls. I've lived with virtuous monsters, powerful misfits, and damned angels. I've lived with gin, vodka, and Vicodin. I've lived with alcoholics, drug addicts, and myself. I've lived with DUIs, IUDs, and EODs. I've lived with migraines, stomach ulcers, and sobriety. I've lived with a rape, break-in, and a shattered kitchen window. I've lived with punches, slaps, and a bite. I've lived with frozen pipes, hearts, and beds. I've lived with abuse, manipulation, and manifestation. I've lived with being fought over, fucked with, and forgotten. I've lived with passion, persistence, and piss. I've lived with devastation, underestimation, and exhilaration. I've lived with ancestors of colonizers, the colonized, and the lost. I've lived with green cards, citizens, and those undocumented. I've lived with sand dunes, bright lights, and suburban flights. I've lived with self-harm, self-awareness, and self-care. I've lived with couples therapy, group therapy, and medication. I've lived with hypersexuality, bisexuality, and prized virginity. I've lived with homeschool, public school, and dropping out. I've lived with beige carpet, linoleum, and pressed wood walls. I've lived with a broken car, station wagon, and pickup truck. I've lived with no money, less money, and sometimes money. I've lived with patches of strawberries, clover, and rosemary. I've lived, I've lived, I've lived. I have lived. I have lived. I have lived. I lived. This next poem is, I did not grow up here. I grew up in the Midwest in Indiana. I didn't grow up in Indianapolis, but I do consider Indianapolis my home. I'm actually going there soon. And when I was a teenager, I became really fascinated with this poet named Tim Dugos. I just learned I've been saying his name wrong for 20 years, like last week. The L is silent. But he was a poet, queer poet that was also very spiritual and religious, and he talked a lot about that in his poetry. And so this is Indianapolis after Tim Dugos's Allentown. Sleeping too, sunshine, and still being stoned and trying to stay celibate before sundown comes. Okay. I'm going to read two from the new book. So I kept a diary during lockdown, and I was cooking a lot because that's what you do when there's nothing else to do, I guess. And I also thought at the same time, wouldn't it be great to get into a romantic relationship that's long distance, and then break up also during that time. And I put it all in a book, and I was like, we need to publish this. So that's what you're in store for. And this first one is called Blunder of the Box Instructions. You know that feeling your face feels after crying in your sleep? Lasts. Box brownies with extra cinnamon and cayenne pepper and chocolate chips without sodium. Add anger. How many ways can I say stop speaking because I miss you? Deep in lockdown. Couched conversation, finger soft folds, establish cravings. Cream-filled confections, give instructions. Check availability of edible fixings. Time to turn on, sense vibration, wait as evening juices squeeze. Sound exits device, predict to take pics, what angle brings the most mouth-watering pleasure? Now, turn on the hand mixer. And then here's some new shit.
New shit?
Just a couple. This first one's short, and then the last one I'll read is a prose poem. It's called He Texts. He texts. I know it's last minute, but I can't make it tonight. Something came up, but I'll make it up to you, I promise. It's not like that. It just didn't work out this time. I really do want to see you. Please don't be upset. I hate it when you're upset. I love you. I text. I love you too, Dad. So I just want to say, y'all are amazing. Thank you for coming out to support our lovely Laura tonight. It's incredible. It's an honor to be here, and it's an honor to watch her grow as a human, as an artist. And I love her. I'll talk more about that later. But thank you so much for being here. Bags of bagels and blueberries. Waiting for my workout class to start, I stopped by the bagel shop. I picked up a blueberry scone and sit at a community table by the group anticipating their orders for pickup. I perch on a stool, breaking off pieces of pastry inside a small brown bag. A man swivels around in his seat with a hot sandwich. He's been there this whole time, and I didn't even see him stand up when his number was called. He's sitting across, but turned away from me. He slowly takes off his jacket to reveal a clean Carhartt hoodie and adjusted his fitted knit cap. He proceeded to carefully pull apart the paper-wrapped bagel, unfolding the steam and layering flat the napkins. He gazes at the meal before taking a precise but deliberate bite that tore into the bread, leaving a piece of avocado to slide out. I can't look away from this display of delicate brawn. I ask, "What kind of sandwich is that?" He wipes his mouth, holding up his hand to cover, and he says, "Egg!" and holds up the receipt. I see that it says hot sauce on it, and I say, "Yes, hot sauce!" And we both nod furiously. And then I place my bagged breakfast into my tote and excuse myself. It's time for class. Or, I remember that this is how it started last time, and how my heart is still hurting, and my apartment is still a mess, and my bank account is still sad, and I still can't eat a bagel without crying. I leave him there, handsome and hungry, while I escape to calisthenics. After class, I go home, and I leave the half-broken blueberry scone in my workout bag. Thank you.
At the hotel in Johannesburg, there's a dead pigeon on the windowsill. On its back, where it landed after hitting the glass pane, lying claws up in restorative pose, eyelids lowered over eyes, wings tucked to each side, round chest exposed to gray sky. Back in New York, it is 9 p.m. Without warning, you have texted to end things. I am asleep in bed, in a room 6 hours in advance, walls thin enough to hear each rustle in the next room of bed sheets. You tell me that I want too much. Highway side the next day, I climb out of the car to see rows of 10 million trees, the world's largest man-made forest. Blow the tendrils off a dandelion, pray for amnesia, your tongue darting badly, our legs gather into a pile of kindling. Tuck my arms into my sides, gain stability, a windowsill to catch me mid-fall. Okay, this next one is about dating in New York, which is, awful. So probably some people can relate. And actually, funnily enough, since I wrote this poem originally, I've gone on a way more bad dates since then. So there's actually a part 2, which I'm currently working on, so,
Way to manifest.
Okay, so this poem is called Standing Up to Men. Listen, you skateboarding Aquarius. Listen, you 35-year-old bargain basement Louis C.K. motherfucker. Listen, polyamorous tender boy, playing white noise sounds from your laptop to help me sleep. Listen, cartoonist with daddy issues, peculiar method of hand-holding and humor lacing your meanness. Listen up, son of a diplomat who made murder jokes on our only date. Step away from me on the subway, man I met at a party. I don't want your poems. I don't want your eye contact. I don't want to kiss. Listen, Instagram famous viola player. Your gregarious smile won't let me get a word in edgewise. Listen, boy named after Keanu Reeves, who ghosted after pressuring me to sing Hall & Oates at karaoke on our first date. Empty lounge with a classically trained man belting show tunes, another in a fedora singing Frank Sinatra to his girlfriend. I can't go for that. So, stay tuned for part 2. Okay, so there's a few odes in the collection, and the first one is Ode to Thick Women on Instagram. Woo-hoo. I sing praise to your luxury, graceful in all spaces you occupy. Laying out in gilded patio chairs, the sun dripping down on upturned faces, silks draping over each glorious swell of body, short shorts, squares of fabric holding you, the way you fold into yourself when seated. When I was 14 and scotch-taped Vogue spreads to my walls for weight loss and beauty goals, I hated my hips much wider than the thin arches untouching before me. Let me cast a spell, retroactively DM myself profiles of thick women whose bodies I want to kiss or become. Every time I open this app, I beg, show off the thorn tattoos wrapping around your upper thigh. Nothing better than a tiny triangle of bikini holding in place the overflow of body on each side of fabric. I dress down in tribute to you. I have these really janky sticky notes in here. Okay, so this poem is one that I personally like. I'm biased, but it's one of those ones that no matter how many times I sent it out, no one wanted to publish it. So I was like, well, I'm gonna publish it myself. I'm gonna put it in my collection anyway, and I'm gonna read it. It's called Metamorphism. In college, a professor put piles of crumbling earth matter across our biology lab, left us to determine their origin. We took class trips to rock walls behind fast food chains, saw remnants of volcanic rock there long before the drive-thru was illuminated in neon. One Friday, we went to the beach, measured the rising tides of the Long Island Sound. I was in a group with my best guy friends. They did the measuring while I collected smooth pebbles, bridged shells for my desk. One of them would stare at me across the sand, his reach indecisive. In our other class together that semester, he wrote haikus about bees, lavender, fennel, passed them across the aisle like a bouquet of herbs, while we learned about colony collapse disorder, how the bees are dying at alarming rates, which plants we should nestle into the ground to save our tiny pollinators. Each evening, walking across campus, hazy night air closing in on our buzzing, I dizzied around mounds of basalt, daydreamed of him over a ground laden with slates of coarse and grainy sandstone. have two short ones. This one is called Beginning of the Second Position. I want to die with a ballerina's clavicle pressed against my throat, an intimate knowledge of my body and all its muscled parts, unraveling while rapturous harps string along. Everywhere we go is velvet plush, a give and take of limbs. And this one I wasn't actually sure if I was going to read, but then I was like, I know Kristine always hypes up this poem, so I'm going to read it. It's called Coupling. To sit opposite, your cheeks purple from my highlight, wave of shine. The sign behind my head pulses red light. Eyes downward on the table, a break from looking up. I want to lick the marrow from you. I've never wanted to lick the marrow from anything. Okay. This one feels particularly appropriate with June starting in a few days. Which I was going to say, yay, Pride Month, which is great, but then I was like, this poem is actually sad, so it's, I don't know. So this one's called Summer in the City. All June I watch the starlings bloody the roof with berries plucked from the nearby cherry tree, lifting their beaks, smelling the metallic air, swallowing the gushing orbs whole. I think of sending you photos of the red-stained roof, the pits scattered to one side, my bare body in the reflection of the window. A year ago, you were hardly wrapped around the maw of my interiority, not the vacant dirt road or your hand on my leg. I bought red jasper street side. The man warned me when he handed it over, repeated it twice. I couldn't hear him over my echolocating of you. My shirt and hair stick in the spots where previously you strayed, the cavernous granite hold of my lower back. Do you ever think of giving your body what it wants? I do, but can't bring myself to do it. I smell fresh air and light papers on fire. Let my hair grow greasy. Trails of bell pepper seeds everywhere. In my bed, under the hallway rug, my messiness alive. In yesterday's car, we sing praise of the yucca trees we pass, how sharp they spear into the air. Forest of swords, I dream of placing myself in your center, unreachable, quiet. Okay, this one is called On Your Holy Block. The only strange man I love today is the one with his hands wrapped around the throat of the apple tree branch in his front yard, shaking fruit loose, lit cigarette pinned to his frustrated mouth. He does not see me walk by, does not care about the Queen Anne's lace growing on the edge of the hot pavement, the sun beating down on our exposed necks. Okay, I've got three more. This one is called Ascent, and it's about being in Santa Fe with my sweet April. Okay, Ascent. It's Tuesday night. The rapid click, click, click of the gas stove echoes south to the arroyo cast in orange for another half hour. In this house, we climb a ladder to sleep, look out the window at horses racing around their pen. Evening drifts in and out of itself, soft glow of ambivalence, whether I am cold or stoned, staying inside or kicking up dust in the driveway. I settle into open spaces effortlessly, expanse of earth opening in every direction, giving itself without guilt. Woo! This next poem is me, you know I'm absolutely obsessed with her. She's a 6-pound Chihuahua angel. She really should be here tonight, but she would have stolen the show, so. So this is called Gratitude. In the dry of January, everything is us. Little dog and I out walking. She zags across the sidewalk to sniff each side of the path, and my long coat covers my knees, the pajama pants I'm still wearing in the middle of the day. Sometimes I wipe off the salt and dirt from her paws on the woolen fabric of my sleeves. Let me clean Earth's tiniest blessing, dirty paws lifted from the sidewalk, dry them with my long hair. And then it feels really appropriate. I had planned on ending on this one anyway, but Ricardo, since you started as like, you know, the baddie motorcycle version of me, this is, you know, full circle. So this poem is called I Want to Be a Motorcycle Bitch. I woke up hungry for romance, a ride down desolate desert roads. The need to pull over for the sunset with my lover by my side, shake loose their hair from hard helmet shell. When no one else is driving by, I'll light a cigarette, smoke disappearing in the trail we leave behind. Dusky air, dusty highway. In the rise of evening, run my hand across their face, find it within me to rush toward the next stretch.